people don't sufficiently understand that the way that we manage our money is a system, and that system has an impact on how we would behave. If we set bank accounts together with a joint goal and a joint responsibility and joint values coming into it, we're together in a very different way. So that's one mistake. People don't think about the pipes. People don't think about the importance of having a system together. Having a joint account is a good thing, and it's a big deal.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Emily, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Plenty. My husband and I co-founded Plenty after we began merging finances, and we're shocked to find what a mess that could be. We'd both been in Silicon Valley working in fintech for over a decade each, so we set out to build something better. Today, Plenty is a wealth platform helping modern couples invest and plan for their future together. We bring the investment strategies and products of the wealthy to the everyday household. But we know in relationship is also not just about the products and tools, it's also about the conversations. And talking about love and money is still very new. So that's what we settled to do in our podcast to hopefully make it a little bit easier for everybody listening. Today, I'm very excited to introduce Dan Ariely. Dan is a professor at Duke University, and he researches behavioral economics on the irrational ways people behave. He is the author of Irrationally Yours, Predictably Irrational, The Upside of Irrationality, and The Honest Truth About Dishonesty. For those who know me, you'll also know that one of my favorite sayings is that I think humans are beautifully irrational, and that's actually what makes us human. So I'm extra excited to have Dan join us on the show today. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Lovely, lovely to be here.
So I'm so curious of anything you could have chosen to dedicate yourself to. Why behavioral economics and understanding some of the irrational ways people behave?
So I like your positive view toward irrational behavior. And I think there is a lot of positive things about it, but there's also a lot of negative things about it. Mm-hmm. And in general, I think of the human mind as a Swiss Army knife. It's a set of tools that were never that good to start with, right? As this arm knife does, and they're not the perfect tools for anything, but you can carry it with you, a little bit like our brain. We can carry it with us. But we have invented a new environment. Mm-hmm. And these tools that were sort of useful 100,000 years ago, whenever 2,000 years ago, are becoming less and less useful. They're less and less relevant. But that's what we have. And we're dealing now with an environment that is not a good fit for our tools. But nevertheless, we have to make do. And I think that, for example, taking your topic, which is how do we create an environment for couples to make decisions together about money, it's basically saying, I know that the tools you have in your mind are not ideal to do it. So let me create another set of tools that could get you to a higher level of performance. And I think that's exactly what we need. We need to recognize that our nature-given tools are not up to the task, and we need some help with some modern tool to help us do better. Now, I do think there's lots of mistakes that we need to fix. Myopia, vindictive, fighting. I mean, we'll talk about some of those things. But I also agree with you that there's something beautiful about the irrational side of us. It's beautiful that we can fall in love and we enjoy poetry and all kinds of things like that.
And, as we're thinking about relationships and marriage, do you think people can use an understanding of behavioral economics to help improve their relationships and marriage?
I think some things people can observe, but mostly not. And the reason is that we don't exactly know where some of these things are coming from. So let's say that you're anxious. Do you really know where your anxiety comes from? Let's say that your significant other left the toilet seat up or a cup of coffee in the sink and so on. And you're upset with that. Are you really upset with that, or is it something else? The reality is that, especially with our emotions, things accumulate. Take stress, for example. Our mind doesn't know that this is stress from work, and this is stress from the kids, and this is stress from dealing with ailing parents, and this is stress from what will happen with ChatGPT and the future of my work, and have like different compartments. No, all of these stresses are accumulated in one place, and they create stress, and we don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So the answer is that we can notice a few things, but most things escape our ability to intuit about ourselves.
So taking us to the beginning of a relationship, I'm curious, starting from there, what are some of the ways that irrationality plays out when individuals are choosing their partners?
Oh, so look, when we choose our partners, let's talk about either online dating or a first meeting with somebody. We have very little information, but we often have very high level of confidence. And, we meet somebody for 10 minutes and we say yes or no. One of the problems early on is not with the yeses, but with the no's. And why is that a problem? Because the person we say yes to will give another chance and we'll get more information. The people we say no to, we're so confident that we don't say, you know what, we had kind of a mediocre date, but I'm not such a good judge of human nature and human character.
Yeah.
So maybe it's an amazing person that just takes a little bit to get used to them, or maybe they were a bit embarrassed, or some people take you a little longer to get to know them. Because of our confidence, we don't give people who don't make good first impression a chance. And actually think about it. Of course, in some more traditional society, we have arranged marriages.
Yeah.
In the US, we have a sort of arranged marriage. It's called freshman roommate.
Yeah.
Somebody decided to do it. And when you ask people about freshman roommates, many of them said, you know what? First day, I didn't like that person. But at the end of the first semester, they're now a dear friend. And now it should give people a pause about their ability to judge, but it doesn't. We still have this confidence. So that's one problem. Another problem is, of course, infatuation. Infatuation is a wonderful thing, but it obscures some things from us.
Yeah.
In the extreme case, people who meet the first night, get drunk, go to Vegas and get married in the Elvis. Infatuation is one of those amazing feelings, but it's a feeling that I'm in love with that person. It's the most amazing person in the world, and this feeling would never go away. That's, by the way, one of the tricky things with emotions, whether it's a good emotion like love or a terrible emotion like revenge. We have the feeling that this emotion would last for a long time. It doesn't. But we have a feeling. The third one I would say, though, is I think that people are not sufficiently courageous in the way that we date. Timid. I think that people, kind of, okay, I'll tell you a little bit about me and you a little bit about you, and we'll meet for coffee. It will be limited for 30 minutes. And then if it works out, maybe we'll have dinner and we'll talk about different things. And then we do 4 months of dating. And maybe on the physical side, on the third date, we decide to have sex. But on the emotional side, we haven't revealed that much. We haven't told each other that we love the other person. We haven't been vulnerable. I mean, by the way, people don't say I love you enough because it's an issue of vulnerability. Basically for me to tell you, I love you so much that I wake up with the ache that I miss you. It puts somebody in a state of vulnerability. So I think we also do too much timid dating. And let's say we do timid dating for 4 months, and then we said, okay, it looks like it's going well.
Yeah.
How do you all of a sudden change gears and becoming intimate and vulnerable and so on? So I think that people need to jump in. It's risky. You can get hurt, but if it works, you're very, very successful if you do it. So I think that people should basically reveal much more from the first date. That we shouldn't start with intimidating. We should start with being all in. And yes, we'll make some mistakes. There will be some people that we told way, way too much about ourselves, and now we're not going to see them again, and so on. But I think on average, it's a better strategy.
Yeah. One of the things that Aziz Ansari mentions in his book, Modern Romance, is because there's so much choice. There's this question mark of what's the next best, who's the next best person available? What's the next best Italian restaurant that I can go to after I've met someone who seems very lovely? And so couldn't agree more that it takes time to actually develop that relationship.
Yeah.
So,
and if you think about the nature of relationships, it's trust begets trust, and vulnerability begets vulnerability. And, one of the challenges is that people who start relationships are usually way too young, and they haven't had the relationship. But when you've been around and you're a bit more cautious and you've failed in a few relationships, I think it's becoming more clear how important openness is.
Yeah,
I just had a long conversation with a guy that lost his wife after 5 years of battle to cancer. Very, very tough.
Yeah.
5 years. They had a lot. And one thing that is worthwhile mentioning for here is that he said that there were so many things they didn't talk about. He said they were amateurs. Like there were so many uncomfortable things. And the relationships were never ones that it was comfortable to bring those uncomfortable things. But at the end of the 5 years, he said they missed a lot. They missed a lot in terms of this. And so this is a terrible story because she ended up dying. Very tough end of life. But I think even couples that stay together, I think often openness, sharing, and so on don't start on the right foot.
Yeah. What are some examples of these questions that promote openness, vulnerability that people could ask on a first date?
So look, I think that each and every one of us would prefer that the other person becomes vulnerable first. but of course it's not not going to work out. So think to yourself about what are the things that would basically give somebody the gift of trust. Being vulnerable is certainly very important. So, I'm now in Israel. Of course, very, very troubled, complex times. Quite a few of my female friends have recently told me, as a friend, not as a romantic partner, as a friend, about sexual misbehavior at younger age. It's the fact that there are hostages in Gaza being held and raped is kind of creating a lot of vividness in a lot of young women's mind and bringing up lots of trauma. And here are people that I've known for a very long time. I thought we were friends for a long time. And all of a sudden they're sharing with me vulnerability and questions and so on. So if you ask me what are the things that we need to share, I would say that if couples are going to have a physical relationship, I think admitting challenges in physical relationships, whether it is fear, uncertainty, and things that are not comfortable and so on, very personal, very, very revealing. if we think about long-term relationship, I think that sharing things with fears about career, things about family, so take all the aspects of what we're going to experience now and we might want to experience later, and share those things.
So let's say there is a couple who meets and they were open and vulnerable early on in their relationship. They fall in love and decide to build a life together. What are some of the common irrationalities that you've seen for how couples begin to manage money together?
Yeah. So of course, you and I've talked before that about your platform and what you do. So we share lots of similar views on these things. Couples often don't think enough about the mechanism of running of running a household. People meet at different stages of their life. If they meet when they both have accounts, they're different. If they meet when they don't have accounts, they're different. If they move state, they start different. But people not sufficiently understand that the way that we manage our money is a system, and that system has an impact on how we would behave. So people come to it, whatever we have, you have an account, I have an account, let's just stay with it, and so on. But no, the reality is that those things are very important. Couples, we don't have to get, people don't have to get married, but what does marriage create? What does marriage create? Marriage creates aligned long-term goals in a way that is very different than dating. So think about the following metaphor. You live in an apartment and you have a daily contract with the landlord. And every day you wake up and you say, hey, do I want to keep this apartment for another day or not? Would you have plants in those apartments? Probably not. If there's a crack in the wall, would you fix it? Probably not. Would you hang paintings? Would you fix a leaky faucet? The answer is probably not. The moment that you start thinking long term, you say, I'm buying this apartment, or I have a year contract, I have a 3-year contract. Lots of people talk about the difference between people from my generation to your generation in all kinds of ways. And I think one of the big differences is a 30-year mortgage. If you move to a city, you have a job, you think you'll stay there for a long time, and you get a 30-year mortgage, lots of things change. If you're a young person, you can't afford maybe a 30-year mortgage in the city that a house in the city that you live in, you're not sure where you will be, and you end up that's a big difference. Now, are you as a person different? No. Are you as a person with the mortgage acting differently? Yes. So I think there's a lot to the commitment and the framework and the joint thinking that is a big deal. And setting up bank accounts is similar. If we set bank accounts together with the joint goal and the joint responsibility and joint values coming into it, we're together in a very different way. So that's one mistake. People don't think about the pipes. People don't think about the importance of having a system together. Having a joint account is a good thing, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal. The second thing I think that people don't do enough is they don't think about money together. Mostly there's one person, division of labor. We're all very busy. Things take a long time. Why should we both do the same thing? You do X, I'll do Y. Let's do division of labor. And money is no different. It's mostly minutia. It's mostly not that interesting. It's mostly not that important. Somebody needs to do it well. But from time to time, especially at the level of values, people have to come together and make decisions together. And because of the division of labor, we don't do it enough. So let's just take a gender stereotypical case. Not true. I wish it wasn't true, but let's just take this. One spouse is in charge of the kids. One spouse is in charge of money. Week number one, it's fine. Month number one is fine. 6 months, it's fine. What happens 5 years down the road? 5 years down the road, the person who is responsible for the kids know every little details about the kids' friends and what they're allergic to and what cookies you can buy and what cookies you can't buy, and that Johnny can't be picked up at this time and Billy has to do this. And the person on the money side understand things about cryptocurrency, and they understand things about investing in a way that is environmentally friendly, and now it's very costly. Like if the kid's spouse, kid's spouse now gives instruction to the other spouse. They say, go to the supermarket and get these cookies. And if you got the wrong cookies, but they don't have the time to explain to you all the reasons why you need these cookies that have no peanut allergy and not these cookies that have almond allergy and so on. And this spouse also has no time to explain everything to this. So we have this specialization and division of labor, which makes lots of sense for the short time, but not sense for the long term. And from time to time, we have to do this intersection. From time to time, we have to take some time and explain and share together some of the general things. What is our investment strategy? You don't have to be a money expert to have an opinion about this. And do we want to invest in companies that manufacture crude oil or not? And from time to time, you have to think about, what do we want our kids to do, and how much screen time do we want them to have, and what kind of extracurricular activities we want them to have. So I think division of labor is important, but we do it too much, and we don't get together on important things. And then the other thing I think is that we get too involved with specific decisions.
Say more there.
So if we think about bickering, like, why did you leave the coffee cup in this there? It's rarely about the coffee cup. It's rarely about the coffee cup. What is usually about? It's about the fact that I told you that I like clean sinks. I told you I like clean sinks. It's important to me. Why didn't you listen? Am I not important to you that you're not doing this? Now, we all have, I sound angry, I'm just trying to act the part. But we all have things that we think are important and things that are useless. I don't like buying things that are not recyclable in principle, and you don't like to do things. And when those things happen, we end up in a conflict because we feel that we are not heard. Didn't I tell you I don't like it when you buy things that don't use recyclable materials? Like, don't you care about me more than you care about this toaster? Like, how could you?
We've all been there.
And the things that we need to do is we need to step a little bit away out of those things that everything is personal. I think that people who get divorced and live together at a later stage of life, if they can, lots of people have two households. And the benefit of a two household is that if I come to her apartment or house, and there's something that would upset me in my apartment, in her apartment, it's her right. And the other way around, right? So we need to treat our joint life as if everybody's in their apartment. It's not. and now with the money things, eventually almost everything we do has a financial side.
Yeah.
So if people do something that we don't like, we end up being upset, and it a lot of time takes the shape of money. Why did you spend so much money on a toaster? Right?
Yeah.
And I think that what we need to do is we need to make a decision together about amounts, but not about the details.
Yeah.
So if I end up living with person X, I need to accept that I respect person X and I respect person X decisions about how they're going to spend money. And we can have a discussion about how much money is it okay to spend on gifts and whatever we decide. But discussions about what people buy should they could come up with in discussion. Why did you choose to buy a pen or a new phone? But should not come with any sort of criticism.
Yeah.
So I think we live together. Oh, one more thing I'll say about money.
Yeah.
Money is very unique. So people bring to a relationship lots of things. People bring a sense of humor. People bring generosity and cooking ability and all kinds of things. And people also bring income. But for all the things we bring to a relationship, the only thing that has decimals is the income. One person is more funny than the other one, but by how much?
Right.
One person is kinder, and by how much? It's just it's not as clear. But if one person makes 11 cents more than the other person, that's very clear. There's no question about it. So because of that, income ends up being having a disproportionate effect on the power in the relationship. Because if one person brings more money in, it's very clear. If the other person is more passionate or funnier or has a better sense of humor, it's not as clear. So money ends up having a disproportionate effect on the relationship. And because of the income gap between men and women, it's of course biased by gender, because the odds are that it will be in favor of the men and disfavoring the woman. And what we need to do is we need to try and neutralize that. Like you would not want to have a relationship when there's a power imbalance because of income. You want people to bring everything they have to a relationship. And not use that for control and power. So and I think that your system has a chance to eliminate some of that. It's very hard to eliminate all of it, but I think it's very healthy. It's very healthy to say, just because I don't think many people say it explicitly. Say, hey, you know what? I make $7 more than you do, so I'm going to decide which restaurant. I don't think people do that, but it's in the air in terms of that, and we need to fight hard to make it feel that it's not this way.
Yeah. So I'm curious, because at the very beginning, you were talking about the joint account. So can you play it out for us? What happens for a couple who decides to use their joint account as, their primary account that they share together, versus a couple who decides to continue using their own accounts? What we've typically seen at Plenty is, even upon getting married, it's very natural to be uncomfortable and have some fear and uncertainty, because you've been an independent adult for 10 plus years, potentially. You're used to managing all of your money. You got married. That's a big milestone already. And making a change for your money is a really big deal. But then what happens if you play out these two different approaches?
Yeah. So generally speaking, we have two decisions to make with money. We have to decide what we want to spend our money on, and how much we want to spend now versus how much we want to spend later. Spending now versus later, it's also called savings, but it's spending later. And both of those both of those tasks, what do we want to spend on now and how much we want to spend now versus later, need some self-control. Right? Now versus later, or savings. I really want a new bike, but I'm really tempted by this new whatever. Or I really want us to pay our mortgage faster, but you know what? My computer is a little slow. So I feel when people are aligned, we are more future oriented, and we're also more likely to get be able to fight some temptation.
Yeah.
So let's say on the decision now, I want to buy a sweatshirt. But then on the way to the sweatshirt, I see an ad for a cookie. You understand the general. But if we decided together that we're going to buy the sweater, we're going to be more likely to override the cookie. We make better long-term decisions. We're more committed to our decisions when we make it together. By the way, we all know that if we schedule with a friend to meet and go for a run, we'll go for a run. If we schedule with ourselves, we'll find other things to do. So the joint decisions, the joint accountability, the fact that you think about the family when you make those decisions, not just about you, basically it's a little tougher because you're not just doing what you feel like right now, but the decisions end up being better decisions. And being decisions. Now, and in the same way that we talked about courageous dating or the opposite of timid dating, us making decisions that take the other person into account helps them make better decisions and take us into account and so on. And eventually the joint function of the family ends up being better.
Yeah.
And life is all about compromises, right? Every decision about money is a decision about what are we getting and what are we giving up. And when we make mistake, it's a mistake that we don't get the thing that we really want, and we give up on something that we really did. And if we have a decision buddy, whether we decide together or we commit to it and so on, we just end up making better decisions.
Yeah. That makes me think a lot about the comment you made about the division of labor, because a core belief that Channing and I had when we were building Plenty was that it's extremely important for couples to be looking at their money together and to be in the same place, be able to look at where is our money going, because we're both spending and responsible for spend decisions constantly, as well as where are we saving and investing, because we're both impacted by those goals. But if we can't do it in one place, then we're less likely to do it.
Yeah. And it will be a balancing act, because division of labor has a real goal. We are all too busy and there's too much things to do. And, but there's a division of labor, and then there's specialization, and it gets worse and worse. And John Lynch and colleagues have showed that, when people get together, the person who is in charge gets better and better in managing money, and the other person gets worse and worse. They don't stay the same. They get worse.
Yeah.
Why? Because things change, and that person is not keeping up with that. So, do I want people to do the bills together? No. But do we each have to find the golden fit of how much do we want to stay involved? And do we understand that it's a long-term game? That we want to stay involved not just for the moment. We want to stay involved so we don't get too far apart. And then 5 years later, you wake up and you say, "Oh my goodness, you want to get involved? I don't have the 1 month it will take to teach you now why we've been doing the things we have been doing."
Yeah. The saying we use internally is, whether it is for spending and understand where the money is going, or it is for investing to understand what you are backing and how you're growing, you don't need to be the driver, but you need to at least be a passenger.
Yeah. And with passengers, I don't like second seat driver, right? Taxi driver. But I think this is not a single driving car. It's the two people are driving, the one person is executing, but things like values need to be there. And values is not just about, do we invest in fiber optics or in crypto, whatever. It's also, what is our view about saving for the future? How much do we want to live at the moment? What size of a mortgage do we want to do? At what age do we want to start saving for our kids? College, all of those things matter. By the way, kids' college, good example. When people open college savings accounts for their kids, they start treating their kids better. Why? There's an account that says that little Joey, who is 6 months old, has a college savings account. And when the parents see that account, they remember that one day little Joey would go to college, and they read to him slightly differently, and they buy a little bit more books and so on. The way we manage our money, the way we call different accounts, changes our attitude. I'll give you another example for that. Imagine a couple who is not doing very well financially. And they have zero saving, and they have $15,000 in credit card debt. And all of a sudden, this month, they have an extra $500. And they could do one of two things. They can either open a savings account, and get almost no interest, and have a $500 in a savings account. Or they can pay down $500 of their $15,000 debt and save more in interest. Now, when you think about this problem mathematically, financially, it's very clear. Pay the debt.
Right.
Psychologically, it's not as simple. Why? Because being in debt, people feel that they are not doing well. And they are feeling like, think about getting out of debt. Getting out of debt is it's like a marathon that when you finish, you did nothing. Like, it's not like a marathon that you finish and you say, I achieved this amazing feat. No, when you reach the end of it, which is tough and difficult, will take years, you're at zero. Psychologically, people need to wake up and to feel energized to reject temptation and override the desire for a cookie and save a bit more and so on. And it turns out that savings, even a little bit, gives the people the feeling, I can make it. I am a person with a savings account. I'm not just a person with debt.
Right.
Now, even though it makes absolutely no sense rationally, now that person has more energy. Now that person feel they have more capacity to say no to cookies and to not fall to temptation and save more and do better decisions. So the way we set up our accounts, the names we give things, the way the piping goes, all of those end up metric.
Yeah, one of the things we saw when Channing and I were over at Even was, on average, if you name your goals, and not just house, like name it, this is our 2-bedroom place in, this city in Atlanta, for example, people on average would put more money aside because they felt more connected to that goal. So definitely that's something that we've tried to carry over as well as we've thought about designing the goals experience, especially when it's two people who are now going to connect to a goal. I am curious, though, one of the things you spoke about is that there is this temptation to prioritize current you or future you. Do you have any tips for people to almost, hack this temptation? Because it's very natural. I can eat the thing today or I can not eat it and then, think about myself down the road.
So there are lots of hacks depending on what it is. Money is one of the easiest. Why is money one of the easiest? Because we can set up automated processes. So imagine I wanted to set up automated processes for eating. It will be very tough because I go to restaurant and supermarket and my kitchen and so on. Automated processes can basically say, I'm going to make sure that something happens all the time for me on my behalf the way I want it. Like I want to the moment my salary hits, I want $1,000 to go to a different account to do X, Y, and Z. So it's really amazing if you think about the effect of digital currency on our ability to do automation is amazing. There's nothing like it. We can't sleep automatically. We can't exercise. We can't wash our hands. We can't not use phones while driving. So money has this huge value of automation that we really have to take care of. By the way, that's why I think that money is kind of a key to lots of other things, because we can so easily say, here's what I want to do. I'll set it one time in an automated way, and like 401k, it would do it. It would do it for me. The other thing there's lots of other ones. I'll just name one more, are what we call personal rules. And personal rules are a little bit like religion. Religion doesn't tell you, try to do this. Religion say, do and don't do. There's a clear line. Religion doesn't say things like, or think about dieting. Like trying to diet, it's not about, eat one less forkful. It's basically say, no soft drinks.
Yeah.
Right. The things we're good at is categories. I do this, I don't do that. This is why it's easier to stop smoking than to go on a diet. You're either a smoker or not a smoker. Right? If you basically say I'm a 2 cigarette a day smoker, that's very tough to stay at a 2 cigarette a day. So it means that do and don't do are the easiest rules for us to follow. Because it's clear, and also we get used to them, right? If you say no soft drinks, let's say you're a soft drink user, at some point it'll be easier to say do and don't do. I'm on the not do side, and then 3 months into it, you'll lose your craving to a large degree for that. So I think that's what we want to do. We want to say, here's what our future self wants. Let's take the things that we can create as a do and don't do battles and try and create them. I think that's very important. And then, I'm skipping to another topic. One of the things that I find a lot is that we think we're professionals, but in almost everything we do, we're amateurs. So what do I mean? Do people know how to sleep well? No. Do people know what exercises will get them the most happiness and joy? The answer is mostly no. Do people know how to have relationships, a loving relationship with a significant other? Mostly no. Do people know how to use money to buy the most happiness? The answer is no. Yeah. Almost everything we're amateurs. Some of us are slightly better than others. Some domains we're slightly, but in generally speaking, we're kind of amateurs. And it means two things. It means we need to look to professionals to help us out, right? Like, how do you sleep well? What are the tricks? What has the literature found out? What are ways to stop bickering or to fall in love in a healthier relationship? But the second thing is we also need to experiment. Because yes, we can say something about the average, but what about us? How it would fit us? So, so one of the things we need to do with money is to experiment. What do I mean by experiment? Imagine, Emily, I'm asking you now, I'm giving you $100 now, and I'm saying, Emily, what is the best use for $100 right now to buy you the most happiness? Yeah. My guess is you don't have a clear answer right now. I have some candidates, but like, what would be the best use for these $100? I don't know. Yeah. The same thing if I ask you about cutting $100. I say, if you now cut $100 from your spending, where would you cut to have the smallest impact on the quality of your life? Yeah. Is it cutting some subscriptions? Is it going out to dinner one time less a month? Where is it coming from? So because of that, we need to experiment. Because we don't know, we need to experiment. We need to basically say, what am I doing now that is not buying me enough happiness? And what are the things that I'm not doing because I don't think they'll bring me happiness, but maybe they would?
Yeah.
So what does it mean? It means instead of going out one time, get a bottle of wine and sit on a bench in the park.
Yeah.
Instead of subscriptions to X, buy flowers. Instead, let's try. Let's take things that we do, cut them out, and see how much impact they have on our lives. And let's look at things we don't do and see how much they would increase the quality of our life.
Yeah. And one of the things I love about the idea of experimentation is that it almost turns it into a game with your partner. It's something that you are both doing and you can just see what happens. Like, did this bring us joy? Did this not bring us joy? Yeah. We were lucky to do a travel year. And one of the things we experimented with, was seeing, does actually going to restaurants consistently bring us any joy? And one of the moments we had that I still remember vividly was we were in this port town in Croatia and we just walked by this farmer's market and we had been planning to go walk for lunch. And at this farmer's market, they had for $3 a small half bottle of wine. And the cheese stand had just opened. And I think it was a total of maybe $9 for some cheese and some meats and this tiny bottle of wine that we were like, maybe we just have this. And we both had this moment at the end of it where we were like, you know what? I think we enjoy a good meal every once and so often, but actually we don't get enough joy that is financially, at least for us as a couple, necessarily worth it in the same way.
Yep. So, that's right. So we need the courage to question our daily behavior and to test it out and to see if something is better. Which city in Croatia?
So this was one of the port cities. I think it was Split, potentially. And so it was, we had done this road trip up the coast.
Very nice.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming onto the show. I feel like there have been so many tips and insights here that are so relevant for couples, especially as they're starting to understand, are there better ways? What should we be doing? Because I think especially for this generation, as we look to other generations, we're like, that doesn't really fit for the lives that we have. But I think going back to some of our core drivers is so helpful. To wrap up the show, I had a few lightning round questions.
Before you do this, you said a few times people of your generation. As hopefully you'll do more and more over time. But I think people who are in their second round of relationship or chapter 2, need slightly different tools. So when you get to that, call me and we'll talk about what people.
Sounds great.
I think that there's kind of relationship without kids. There's non-committed relationship and committed relationship, and then there's relationship when you don't plan to have more kids together. And I think all of those have some interesting differences.
I feel like that could be its own episode for each of those different types of relationships,
and it could be a sitcom as well.
For sure. That definitely could be. To wrap up our show, I had a couple lightning round questions for you, if that sounds good to you.
Sure.
Perfect. So I know you asked this question, but I am curious. Was there a purchase that was under $100 that unexpectedly brought you joy?
Absolutely. Should I say what it is?
Yes, please.
A notebook and a pen in which I wrote love notes to my significant other. I took pictures of each of those, and then at the end of the year gave her the notebook.
That's beautiful. That's very, very sweet. Final question for you. What is something that you have on your bucket list for this lifetime?
This is something I don't know if I'll be able to do or not. But I would love to see Earth from out of space. There's an effect that happens to astronauts when they see, you don't see pollution, you don't see people fighting. It seems like you see people united. You see the planet. You see the planet, and we're all on that planet. I've looked at pictures of our planet from outer space, but from what I understand, seeing it from outer space gives people kind of a sense of joint mission. That very few things are like that.
Well, I hope that's an experience that you will have. Dan, thank you again for coming onto this show. I'm sure everyone will appreciate so many of the thoughts and wisdom that you've shared today.
Thank you so much. Lovely to talk to you again.
Very well. So, for example, when I was 22, 23,
I think it's very normal that
I calculated